problems with you, so all right, here we go. Oh my goodness. I'm not seeing it. All right, so I think we are live. It didn't come out of the countdown like I anticipated. So give me 1 second. Let me make sure we're going.
I've got it up, and it appears we are going.
Oh, and there's people that are tuning in. So let me refresh. Hi guys. Welcome to a special I am live. That's awesome. And you guys can hear me? Good. I've got a special guest, and I don't know if you guys know who he is, kind of a big deal. And this is Tony Aeillo, and this is one of the guy that's been doing the work on our behalf. And so we wanted to do like a quick live today to kind of touch base about how we're looking, how he's feeling. And I want to be kind of careful about what we talk about here, but if there's questions you guys have pertaining to procedures or stuff like that, if you want to know kind of how the sausage is being made right now in court, I think this would be a great place to ask questions. And what I'll do is I will highlight comments that I want to get to, and just kind of let him talk. And so I'm going to turn it over to him and just start kind of monitoring the chat. And so you guys have questions, please drop them in here. And what I'll do is I'll highlight them and we'll talk about them. But without further ado, I turn it over to Tony.
Well, Derek, thank you very much. Thanks for doing this and for the detailed coverage. I appreciate it. I'm glad that someone's updating people since I have been kind of up to my ears and unable to do so myself.
Well, it's kind of understandable. It's you. There was you and Tyler at the beginning of the week, and then it was against up to 46 of them. Correct? Was that a number
uh,
that's accurate?
Somewhere around there. I think they capped out at 8 attorneys. So plus some staff. They've got private law firm. They've got DOJ, and then the AG's office. I believe there's an intern from the AG's office. So um, I will say they've been very kind to me. We'll say off the field.
Good.
During court, dumping documents and stuff like that. That's just what is done. And but in between plays, so to speak, they've been very nice to me, complimentary. Can't believe you're doing this alone and stuff like that. So they're good people. They've got a job to do. I've got a job to do, and I can promise I care more about the result than any other attorney in this situation. So
Yeah, and I think what it does is it says a lot about who you are, your upbringing. I've gotten to know your father very well over this process past couple weeks, and your mom as well. And so obviously I would just want you to know whatever's happens, you did your job, and we're here, we're supporting you. And obviously we know we want the victory, but we understand that this is part of the process. And so I'm glad to see that the state attorneys are treating you well and professionally, because you deserve that respect, because you're really going up against a political machine and a legislative machine, or excuse me, judicial machine. And
yeah.
so there's a lot that goes into it. And so kind of can we talk about some of the highlights for you this week on some of the stuff that you felt like really was a win for you as a person?
Yeah. So getting everything on the record, I got I got objected to, and that happens. But ultimately, when I looked at the exhibits before trial, I said, I don't think I need to get a single one of these on the record, and I can still win this case through testimony. And so, that's always something you worry about, is hanging your hat on one piece of evidence or something like that, because objections happen and rulings don't always go your way, even when when you're planning it out ahead of time, you think the ruling's going to go your way, and you look at the ruling, and you go, "Yep, I've got a rock solid response to an objection here," and then they have a different objection that you didn't think of, and you go, "Oh no, this piece of evidence is key." And so we saw a little bit of that where I know that in the federal trial, they hung their hat pretty much on Clarivis was a big piece of evidence for them, and it was unfortunate that he wasn't available. Like Mr. Marshall said at the trial. Thank goodness it's not my historian, because otherwise I'd have no case. So, that was a big win, keeping Clarivis out. I think that'll help on appeal to not have that evidence on the record. The other one was just the battle over Siegel. Neither my boss or I, we don't do a lot of expert witness stuff. We do a lot of real property law. We do a lot of declaratory judgment actions, but like the judge kind of lamented, this declaratory judgment trial isn't like most of them. Most of them are, 20-minute to 60-minute hearings without evidence. It's just argument over what the law says. And so being able to do battle there with Mr. Marshall on Dr. Siegel was it's not something our office has done a ton of. So I was really going back to second year of law school memory, because it's not something I do every day.
Well, I mean, I think you handled it well. And this is stuff. For the last 2 days of the trial, I have been out of the loop because I've been down here in Arizona. But literally, I get 100 messages a day on this stuff. I've been people sending me notes. I've been, people, because people enjoy these updates, and I really appreciate that people tune in, they listen to me, and they trust me. I really, really like that. Means a lot. And having being able to relay the information that I've gotten from all those people, even though I've been blind because I've been out of the loop. Like, it says a lot about how far we've come as a group, because part of this was kind of me stepping back so I can let others do what we're trying to do here and affect, gun rights in a positive here in Oregon. And so I'm really, really thankful for the people that stepped up and did the work. And so, it was great to see different perspectives of and how everybody viewed what happened in the court and how they sent it to me, and how I was kind of able to kind of put it together and hopefully make sense to people. But I feel that people were really, really engaged this week, and people were I feel like we were very, very focused, which is great. And there was a lot of stuff to do. And, I was celebrating with your family, and just, in the group text, it was just great to see all this stuff come together for you. 'Cause you're young. I mean, you still have a lot, I'm not saying this in a negative way. You have just more experience to build from, and this is going to be a tremendous learning experience for you. And so I look forward to, figuring out a way to help support you in the future, and make your law firm and other law firms around the state, like, have a resource guide where people can go. Like, if you have questions about this stuff, if you have problems with your, right restorations and stuff like that. I want to create a place where people can come together. Being down here at this conference, I've come up with some other stuff that I want to add to the group, where sharing information, like, there's big talks right now with where I'm at about bringing these big coalitions together all across the country. And I feel that we have now a place where we can bring Oregon into the fold and move it in a positive way. And so, is there anything that you want to cover when it comes to kind of where we're at on this Measure 114?
Yeah, so a lot of people, I've seen a little bit of confusion over what happens next.
Okay.
So what happens next is so Monday. Monday we'll have rebuttal case. I'll play that one close to the chest, but
Yep.
I've already kind of told opposing counsel, I'm going to call witnesses to explain why Mr. Yurgielitis is wrong about magazines, and he wasn't wrong about everything, but he was wrong about a lot. And I've got witnesses that the court's already heard from who can explain kind of with more surgical precision than I can why he's incorrect about certain things. One of them being Glock. He's very sorry. I'm seeing a comment, so I'm reading it.
Sorry, I should have disrupted you. I
No,
apologize
it's
for
all right.
that.
Well, thank you. I can't see the. Oh, Dan. Dan, thank
Yeah,
you very much.
yeah.
Yeah, that's actually something my pastor said in a sermon. He said he quoted J.J. Watt. Everybody wants to be a beast, but not everybody wants to do what beasts do. And this was definitely one of those hard hard weeks that I appreciate the compliment and I appreciate the gratitude from people, but I'm fighting for me just as much as I am at anybody else. My clients, of course, but this affects all of us. This affects my dad just as much as it does my clients, me just as much as it does my clients. So I want to thank everybody for the support that comes along with that, because this has been hard, and I it's a job, but it's not always this hard, but it was fun too. I had a lot of fun. Kind of something I've kept secret from a lot of people, but I'm most of it's done, so I'm comfortable saying it. But this was my first trial.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
so this was the preliminary injunction hearing back in December. That was the first time I called a witness. This was the first time I did an opening statement, called multiple witnesses, had to qualify experts, had to do a lot of stuff that, yeah, I was admitted to practice law in 2020, and we all know what 2020 and 2021 looked like. As far as lockdowns and things like that. So kind of my class, unless you were in the criminal area, didn't get very much trial experience right off the bat, because courtrooms are closed. So stuff was
Yeah.
settling, stuff was getting pushed out. I had many jury trials that got rescheduled and then later settled because they were pushed out so long. So it was it was kind of a weird time, as we all know. So yeah, that's kind of my secret. So this was the trial by fire. I will never be nervous about trial ever again, because I've already done, God willing, the hardest one I'll ever have to do. But
I'm getting kind of emotional because obviously I develop a friendship with you and your family, and just knowing that this is your first one. I have a great sense of pride, knowing that we're all standing behind you and giving you strength. And like, wow, I couldn't even imagine being your first trial and going up against some major hitters on the other side. And obviously, not all of them are superstars, but there's a few of them that are really really good litigators.
I
Yeah,
mean, Mr. Wilson and Mr. Marshall are damn fine litigators.
absolutely, absolutely,
They make it hard on me, which
yeah,
that does add to the enjoyment of it. I have gone up, not in a trial setting, but in a courtroom setting against less able opposing counsel, and it makes things harder when you don't have good opposing counsel, actually, because the issues don't get developed for the judge, and so the judge ends up looking at you, and you're sitting there going, well, I'm not going to argue his case. And I haven't had to argue their case at all. I mean, they've done a good job making their case. I think the facts are on our side. I think the law is on our side.
yeah.
I would say the feeling of most Oregonians is on our side. I hope it bears out next time something like this goes to the ballot box. I was getting to the next steps after this.
Yes.
So the next steps after this, so we have closing on Monday, call a couple rebuttal witnesses, and then we have closing argument. Closing argument will take somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour per party. I expect mine to be short because the amount of evidence I think is relevant in this case is less than what they think is relevant. Because I think that, as I said in my opening, the judge could decide this case without taking any evidence. That's in my trial memo. That's in that was in my opening statement, and I explained kind of why. The next step after this, the judge will take the matter under advisement, which means he's going to write a written opinion, and that written opinion will come out. So there's a UTCR, Uniform Trial Court rule, that says when you take a matter under advisement, it's for 30 days or fewer. At 30 days, the parties have an obligation to kind of nudge the judge and say, we typically do it by a letter via email, and we say, hey, judge, just a reminder, you've had this matter under advisement for 30 days. And then the next step after that, if the judge still hasn't entered a decision, then we write to the presiding judge, which is this judge, seeing as he's the only judge over 2 counties. So, I would anticipate about 2 to 3 weeks for an opinion, much longer than that. I've told clients before, if he takes a long time, that could be a bad sign, which is true. It could also be a sign that he's a single judge over 2 counties and is busy. Like you saw on our lunch break, he's got criminal matters coming in because he still has 2 courthouses to run. And so he's, I will say this judge is working hard.
And I don't want to take anything away from that, because I know, I think, this is my own personal opinion, from me watching him and watching his body language, his mannerisms, the way he, his instructions to plaintiff and defendants, like, he's a fair man. And I feel that I love the way that he's a representative of his community. I love the fact that he understands his constituents. I really, I respect that a lot. And so obviously I don't want to put any more pressure on him. We can just kind of move on to something else, but just, I know. So after that judgment is rendered, then what's it look like? So if it's a good thing, then we go to appeal, or.
Good or bad. No one in this case is going to accept a ruling until it's the final ruling. So the next step after this, let's. I'm thinking optimistically, so we assume we win.
Okay.
They will appeal to the Court of Appeals. That process takes about a year of writing. Typically of prepping for the appeal and then writing before oral argument is scheduled. So the way it works is they would file, they have to create the record. I get a chance to look at the record and say, no, this should be included in the record. So for example, the judge cited to the amicus brief filed by the National Police Association, another fantastic lawyer and friend of Oregon gun rights, James Buchall. I believe he drafted that amicus brief, but that came in clutch. It essentially said exactly what I was trying to explain to the judge, just far more artfully and more detailed. I kept telling the judge, self-defense is self-defense. It doesn't make a difference whether you're getting shot at wearing a badge or getting shot at not wearing a badge. The gun you reach for is self-defense. Well, the National Police Association, shockingly, did a better job of articulating that. And so, they, that's the type of stuff we argue about when creating the record. That's called the record on appeal, or the appellate record. and then it's writing. So there's extensions all throughout here. But they will write an opening brief and they will explain to the Court of Appeals why they believe the trial court judge was wrong. Now, the big thing for us here is facts. And the reason why the facts matter is because every single ban that we have case law for came out of Multnomah County. So the facts were not, they were biased facts. There's the case the state keeps hammering is Oregon State Shooting Association.
Yeah.
And that one totally discounted the Henry rifle because it came 1 year after Oregon statehood.
Yeah.
That's not an honest fact. That's not how we look at First Amendment rights or Fourth Amendment rights. That's not how we look at any other right to just freeze in time as of the ratification of the Constitution. And so here we have the opportunity to make better facts. Miss Ablinski came in clutch on that. And so, I assume the judge will make factual findings that will be good for us on appeal. The good thing about that is on appeal, it's harder to disrupt that factual finding. So it has to be and I'm going from rote here, but I believe it's clear error of fact. So that would be something like 5 witnesses say that the light was red, one says it was green, and the judge just decides it was green. Well, that could be clear error. And so then the Court of Appeals, they'll also explain why they believe the judge applied the law wrong. Now, obviously, I don't know how many people have read my pretrial memo, but we've advanced from the case law a 4-prong test for Article 1, Section 27, and they have advanced a 1-prong test, which says if it helps public safety, we win. And there's not a single other constitutional right that we treat that way. That's if you look at McDonald versus Chicago, that was in that case they talked about, hey, rights always create public safety risks. Look at the Fourth Amendment. It would be
freedom's dangerous.
Yeah,
if you think about it.
Freedom is deadly sometimes.
And so like I started to interrupt, like where I'm at this weekend, I'm down in Arizona for the gun rights policy conference. So I've been watching all of these attorneys from all of the country present and talk about this 2A. And there's been a heavy focus on the Bruin decision and the fact that the way it has to be ruled, because Bruin is the law of the land, is they have to go back to 1791 to the founding of our country, and they have to take out the interest balance a portion of it, and they have to rule on it as a separate thing. So, I think it's really, really important going forward is we have to make sure that we protect that Bruin decision, because, obviously with the courts, if we get a lopsided Supreme Court now, like that's in jeopardy. And so, there's a lot that goes into it, but we have to understand what truly is going on.
Well, so I'll be a little bit more brief with this one, but Bruin does not apply to my case. Heller does not apply to my case. My case is under Oregon's Constitution only.
Oh, I got you.
And there's a reason why it was done that way. If you bring a federal claim, you can wind up in federal court. There was already a case in federal court, so why would we sue under both? Why would we do a duplicative lawsuit and end up tied up with the other plaintiffs? The theory here was, hey, let's advance a different argument. And if you're asking me, I think our Constitution here in Oregon, as far as gun rights goes, is stronger than the Second Amendment, and that stands to reason, because why would Oregon adopt it if it was just the same thing as the Second Amendment? That we adopted it to say, hey, the federal Constitution does this, we're going to do this up here. And so our final stop will be the Oregon State Supreme Court. And so that's why the trial aspect of this is crucial, because the facts that are found, the evidence that is received is what the higher courts are bound by, except for clear error. And so the judge is going to make credibility determinations and determine, well, maybe he thinks doctor who plays guitar on a song about how he hates the AR-15 is less credible than Mr. Blinsky. The judge is going to make those determinations, and those stay a part of my record the entire way to the Supreme Court. And so what I've told people from the beginning is I cannot guarantee anybody a win in the Oregon State Supreme Court, but what I can guarantee is that to rule against me, they have to change over 4 decades of precedent. I can't stop them from doing that, but I can tell them, here's your precedent. You should abide by it. I prove the facts that entitle my clients to the relief, and do with that what you will. And so that's where I'm at is, a lot of people are daunted by the Oregon State Supreme Court. I'm looking forward to it. They've ruled in my favor once already in this case, our favor.
Yeah. So I'm just sitting here like listening to you speak, and it's like I couldn't tell that this is your first trial by just the way you talk about it. And so I love that level of confidence in your ability and the law. That's powerful, because that helps put all of us, because there's so many of us that are tuning in that our rights are really, really important to us, and that's why we're involved with this situation. We feel like we don't have any control. We feel that the cards are stacked against us because of the way this thing has gone from the very beginning. And, this thing has been fraudulent from the get-go, and so to have somebody that is, in our corner and can, even has been his first court case, and he's speaking this way, gives me like great honor and like pride for you and who you are. And I think let's just get it done. Let's just see it through. And so, that's, we have to understand this is how the process is going to work. And so, so you said this Oregon Supreme Court. So is there a chance it could die there, or would it go to the Ninth Circuit?
It will not go to the Ninth Circuit. It will not go to the U.S. Supreme Court, because they don't interpret Oregon law. So my case is under Article 1, Section 27. As far as the federal plaintiffs go, I'll tell you, it was funny. Opposing counsel said something like, I thought the federal plaintiffs counsel did a bad job. No, they not at all. But what I can say is they've got a different track than I have. Yeah. And so we both end up in different courts. I have far more faith in the U.S. Supreme Court to rule in favor of constitutional rights than I do the Oregon State Supreme Court. But with that said, this case is going to determine whether Article 1, Section 27 means anything. If they rule against me and against us and say, no, it doesn't mean anything. All the state has to do is show that it will further public safety, and you can chuck out Article 1, Section 27. Then let's look at doing our own ballot measure and beefing up Article 1, Section 27. Those are things that Oregonians have a right to know, which is whether Article 1, Section 27 means anything. And this case will decide that.
And so on this question, this is just my perception from kind of I always say I play an attorney on Facebook. I'm not an attorney here. But, from my perspective, I feel that the ruling that we got yesterday out of California, that helps the judge with the decision making. It's not going to make or break the case, but it helps show that there's a precedent that these magazines are protected arms under the Oregon State Constitution, the federal Constitution. Do you agree with that?
So that's what's called persuasive evidence. So when you're in trial court and even in the Court of Appeals, there's 2 types of precedent. There's binding, and then there's persuasive. And so if it's binding, so for example, the Harney County Court is bound by Oregon Court of Appeals rulings and Oregon Supreme Court rulings on matters of Oregon law, and then obviously he's bound by the Ninth Circuit and the U.S. Supreme Court on federal law. So the California ruling comes from a trial court judge, so they're parallel in level, and from a separate system. So this would be like saying a Washington State court judge ruled a certain way. It's persuasive, but it's not binding. But what I think is really important about that ruling, and the reason the judge doesn't like the parties bringing up federal court rulings. He didn't like it when the defendants did it regarding the federal Measure 114 trial, and he didn't like it when I brought up this one. But it's because he's deciding this case, not some other judge, which I respect. But the reason why I brought it up, kind of against my
better judgment.
I was very concerned when I brought it up, but the witness that was being examined, the evidence that was being examined in that case and this case are very similar. They used Lucy Allen in the California case. Mr. Baez, they worked together. They used Mr. Urgielitis. I believe they used Professor DeLay. I believe they used Dr. Siegel. And so all the same evidence is in there. And so even though I don't know if you or if anybody who's watching now was watching that, but I brought it up extremely cautiously. I said, Your Honor, I understand you don't care. I understand that this is not binding. I do want to raise it as a notice of additional authorities. Here's the case number. And because I brought it up so respectfully, all I got from the judge is, yes, I don't care about that. and we moved on. So
awesome.
But, when he says he doesn't care about it, that doesn't mean he's not going to read it. That doesn't mean he's not going to consider it. It just means that right then in that moment, he did not care, which is fair.
And so, a little backstory about Lucy Allen. Lucy Allen worked for a company that was billing the state of Oregon at about $1,300 an hour for her services when it came to looking at data, right? And making up this data. And, obviously they're going to pick and choose what data is relevant. And then they're going to submit the state a huge bill. And then there you got your custom testimony on demand. It just costs a lot of money. Same with Brian DeLay. Brian DeLay, in my opinion, like I would love, I don't know if I should talk to you about this, but I'd love to sue the guy civilly as Oregonians because of, that was a misappropriation of funds. His second testimony against you, from what I'm hearing from everybody that I got the notes, it was abysmal. And so the amount of money that was spent on that little project with Brian DeLay, it's like we should get some sort of compensation, back for that.
Yeah, suing him civilly, I don't think that'll happen. But what I can say is most certainly, we know who in the Oregon State Legislature needs to be voted out. And for the people who live where those people are, you got to get to the ballot box. You got to register people to vote. We have to get them out of office. We have to get rid of the supermajority. It has to happen. I'm politically plugged in and interested in all that, but I think it goes beyond blue shirts and red shirts, but we know it's mostly the blue shirts that want to be taking away our rights, and then there are some red shirts who are helping them do it. And so if you run for city council, run for state office, run for your county clerk, run. Because we need change in this state. This is a good state. It's you drive around it, and outside of Portland and a few other kind of crummy pockets, it's a beautiful state filled with great people. And I understand the let's move to Idaho people. I get it. But man, I want to fix the state, not abandon it. I'm still kind of a doe-eyed, hopeful guy. I'm 30 years old and I've lived here basically my entire life, and I'd like to continue living here, and so that means we need to fix it.
Absolutely, and vote, vote, vote. We have to, and so that's there's a lot of things that we can fix if we just get involved. And I feel that the group as a whole is going in the right direction,
Yeah.
and people are paying attention. I feel that it's a positive message, and I feel that like I've helped spearhead this and get this ship moved in the right direction. So now we're going in the right direction. So now we got to turn it into action. And so we're seeing bits and pieces of that. We're seeing people come alive. We're seeing people that are coming out of the shadows and saying, hey, I can be a part of this too. And I'm it's really kind of really inspiring. And so we just have to make sure we have to stay focused. We have to understand that we're not going to win this battle today or tomorrow. It's going to be a year, 2 years. It could be 5 years. And it could be generational.
Yeah. I do not think we get a ruling on 114 from the Oregon State Supreme Court for about 5 years.
Okay.
Just the way these things go, it takes, they could always turn down the case. It's not a guarantee that they hear it. But there's not a lot of gun law challenges out of or in Oregon under the Oregon State Constitution. And so, they haven't decided one in a decade. The last one was State v. Christian. The last one before that, I think, was in the 1990s. There's not a ton. Oh, maybe early 2000s, but when the parties are arguing, we're arguing about 6 or 7 cases. There's not a big robust case law, and so I think they decide the case, but they could always turn it down, and then we'd be stuck with whatever the Court of Appeals said. My bigger worry is that the legislature does something before my case is done, and so that's something to look out for, because the way this would have happened, if Senate Bill 348 would have passed, my case gone, our case gone. We start over. The second that thing passed, we would have had to, they would have filed a notice with the court that says Measure 114 is dead, Senate Bill 348, that's not a law. And so then we go right back. Temporary restraining order, preliminary injunction, scheduled trial. We start all the way over.
Wow.
And so the legislature, that's what they do when they think they're going to lose out. And the reason why I'm worried about it in this case is because Measure 114 is so badly written. I've written a ballot measure. It's not that hard, especially when 90% of what you're doing is amending statutes. So the language is already there. You just have to fix or change what you would like to fix or change. And so, the idea that someone didn't cross-reference a statute is just hilarious. The idea that, one thing I tried to bring in with Mr. Callaway, drew an objection, but the judge got the point, is they're supposed to notify the state, is what it says, of transfer. Who's the state? Who do you notify? Do you call Governor Kotek?
Nobody knows.
No one knows, because it's an undefined term. So it was poorly thought out. No one. And so that's what Senate Bill 348 was there to do, was to try to fix what was going to be decided by this court and the Oregon Court of Appeals. And so, they're going to have a hard time fixing it after this case, but they might. And so we got to vote. That's, like the judge gave us a little mini civics lesson yesterday, and it's the legislature that decides what the law is, and then court interprets it. That's
Well, reality, this thing should have gone to rules first. But the
Mhm.
problem is the Secretary of State looked at the Constitution, then she had Ellen Rosenbaum in her ear, and they forced and said, "Oh, it says here 30 days," and that's why this thing was in a hurry up offense to go in on December 8th
Yeah.
of last year. And so the whole thing should have gone to rules. We would have saved millions of dollars, and we probably could have put it in a position where it never would have come out of rules because it's just the way it's written. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a bad bill. I mean, there's no way you can implement it, and so funding it is another issue, So I gotta wrap up pretty soon, but I want to
Yeah.
get, is there some questions that you guys have that we can answer quickly, to kind of prepare you guys for Monday, help prepare Tony for Monday. If you guys have positive words of encouragement, support, let them know. That's why we wanted to do it today, is we wanted to give him his Sunday so he can either spend time with his family or prepare for Monday, because he's going back into that courtroom on Monday. So does anybody have anything that they would like to, ask him or comment about, what he's done and how he's done it? The floor is yours. So please drop them in here.
Yeah, and while we're waiting, I just want to say thank you to everybody. Really quickly, I keep the um, I keep the screen open. I don't look at it constantly, but I see people on there, which feels good. There's been folks in the courtroom all week, um, mostly locals, that have been really helpful. Ben Calloway's. Here at Spent Cartridge, if there's any way that you live close enough where you can come buy a gun from that man, he's been top notch. Treated me and my family very well. Helped me down with some of the accordion files, out of the courtroom, because my cart's only so big, and taking 2 trips with that thing is a pain in the neck. And so he's helped me out with stuff like that, and someone to talk to on break has been nice. Yesterday Mr. Marshall said, Your Honor, I'd like to take a break to discuss this with my colleagues. And I turned around to Ben and Willie and a couple of Cliff, my client Cliff, in the courtroom. I'm forgetting other people, so I apologize, but there's about 6 people total. And I turned around and I said, well, I'm going to discuss it with you guys. You're my colleagues. And went over and sat with them, which was nice. And then, everybody that is watching remotely on responding to your Facebook, the Facebook group, my mom's on there, my dad's on there, my wife's been on there. And, that's one hero that I think everybody, I would appreciate everybody giving a round of applause for, is my wife. A little something about us. This is this case has made us be apart the longest we've ever been apart, since I moved in when I was still in undergrad. And so it was 2 nights the first time, 2 nights the second time, and now I think all said and done, this time will be 8. And she's the one who has dinner on the table when I come home from a stressful day, and she's the one who talks to me through everything, and my parents as well. But wife, she her name's Kennedy, and I couldn't do it without her, not one bit.
Well, yeah, and I've come to know your family well through this, and I'm just like, I'm so blessed to have you guys, and so we're all pulling for you. Thank you, Kennedy, for holding down the fort while he's away, and it's temporary, right?
Yeah.
This, what's really really important. I don't want you to kind of think about is what you're going through right now is temporary, but this ruling is going to last a lifetime. This
Yeah.
thing is really going to go into the history books. This is going to be something that, if it goes in our direction, like we're all hoping it will, like, you're going to be in the history books, and so which says a lot about you as a person. So, hold your head up high and just know that we're behind you. So we're talking about the magazines, right? So the magazines, so in reality, the TRO is going to stay in place, right? That's what we're banking on, and then he's going to rule in our favor. That's what we're hoping.
Yeah, so even if we lost, I believe I haven't had this happen before, but I have a flavored tobacco case out of Washington County where we got a preliminary injunction similar to what we got in this case. And what I told my clients was I believe that stays in place even if we would have ultimately lost, because basically what the judge ruled back in December is it's going to harm Joe Arnold and Cliff Asmussen. It's going to harm Derek LeBlanc. It's going to harm Tony Aeillo, senior and junior. It's going to harm everybody for this thing to go into effect if it's wrong. And so even if he goes, actually, I think I got it wrong at the preliminary injunction, I think it stays in place until the final judgment is reached by the Oregon Supreme Court. So I believe that stays in place the entire time. However, I do not expect to lose, and I'm optimistic. So, even if we win, which I expect we will, that'll stay. The pause will stay in place all through the appeals, unless or until the Oregon State Supreme Court says, Harney County Circuit Court, you got it wrong. Enter a different ruling. Until that different ruling occurs, we will be able to buy magazines.
Good. So, and that's the thing. And so we're just focused. We just got to get it through the next couple days, and then we can have a couple days where we can take just a deep breath and kind of reflect on what it's been, because it's been a tremendous amount of pressure on all of us. And so we can just sit back and just wait, hopefully for the good news, and hope for the best and pray for it.
It's way better to win, I promise.
Absolutely, and it's going to be sweet, and we're all going to celebrate, and so that's that. No matter what happens, we're in this together. So if we lose, we played our best hand, and it just didn't go our way because look at the resources we're up against. They had endless pockets, they had endless witnesses, they had all this stuff, and so at the end of the day, we played our hand, and our hand. We're hoping it goes the way. So. We just got to stay positive. And that's my thing yesterday. We were talking about vernacular and how, we're criticizing, we're picking little things. Like, let's not focus on the little bits and pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Let's focus on the whole puzzle. The whole puzzle is moving our rights in a positive manner. Like, we're moving this needle in a way that we need it to go. And it only goes through getting involved with either the legislature, writing emails, or showing up at court, or trying cases. I mean, that's the only way we're going to move that needle. And so we have to understand it's not going to happen overnight. This is a slow moving process, and it's by design because it's complicated for a reason. Because if it was simple, everything would be thrown out. And
on the vernacular note, let me just
let's talk about
in defense of myself. No, I know it's a standard capacity magazine. So here's the thing: when a word is defined in a statute, the judge wants us all using the same word. And so what I have chosen to say is so defined large capacity magazine, because that large capacity magazine has a definition in the statute, and it means more than 10 rounds. So I will say so defined, and the judge knows what I'm saying. But I have, when the witnesses say standard capacity magazine, that's where it's more important, because you're talking about the actual magazine. I'm talking about a definition. And so, but no, I appreciate, I don't know everything about guns. I'm not, I went to law school, not gun school. And that's been the very humbling aspect of this case is, I know a lot about the law, not everything. I know a little bit about guns, not everything. And so I've gotten taught by my boss. I've gotten taught by opposing counsel. I've gotten taught by Scott Springer, by Ben Calloway, by Derek LeBlanc. I've gotten taught by a ton of people in this case. And so, I'm imperfect vessel trying to get facts into the record. And so what the judge cares most about, what the judge cares least about is what's coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And he cares a lot more about what's coming out of Scott Springer's mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There's no point in irritating the person who's going to decide my case.
That's a great question.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if you caught it or not. I had the pleasure of meeting. I gotta see if I can see it here. I met Mark Smith today,
Oh, cool.
and so I got a signature on one of these books for Scott Stringer because he's one of his Scott Springer's because he's one of his heroes. So that was cool. I'll bring you some gifts too. So I'm looking forward to this thing getting done. So just let's finish strong.
I'm watching the chat a little bit, and thank you to Jeff for Proverbs 20:25. I've got Proverbs 3:5 on my back. That's one that goes for me. But something that's been hammered into me in this case is it's something that got taught to me in law school as well. This is hard, but it's a get to, not a got to. I get to do this. I get the opportunity to fight for all you fine people, as well as myself, my family, my boss. My boss is a gun owner. We're a 3 attorney office. We're looking for more. It's hard to find attorneys in the state that are like-minded and kind of share values and want to fight for the same stuff. But my faith is this has been a big faith instilling lesson for me. So I appreciate all the prayers. I appreciate the David versus Goliath comments. I think I'm a pretty big guy. I think I outweigh Mr. Marshall and Mr. Wilson combined. So I'm not so little.
Can we get a royal death match or something at one point?
Yeah, but I appreciate all that stuff. I appreciate the prayers a ton. It's been it's been great. It's been an honor. I don't know what to say to people who say thank you.
I don't either. That's my biggest that's my biggest challenge. And one thing I want to press upon people is people always they come to me and they say thank you, and I love that sentiment. But at the end of the day, I'm doing this for me. Your rights are just a byproduct of what I'm doing for myself. Yeah. And so if I can inspire you to get alongside of me and Tony to do the stuff that we need to do right now together, that's how we're going to move this needle. And so we need a pack. We have a pack. We just don't know. I need people to help get involved with we have a pack. It's already been established. It's got a bank account. It's legit. I just don't have the bandwidth.
Yeah.
So, that's what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, political involvement, that's number one. I've told my client, other clients this before, but I don't have to go to court and fight about a bad law if we make sure the bad law doesn't get enacted first. So that's the first place to be 100%. Hopefully we can get us a new governor. We can, I'll say another thing here. Pay attention to who you vote for judge. Research them. That's an important part of Oregon is we do elect our judges. They don't serve life terms. And so sometimes there's only one judge and it's an incumbent running. You don't have to vote for that judge. They still have to get a certain percentage of votes. And so if there's no option and you think that judge is unfair or biased or anything like that, don't vote for that. Don't fill in that bubble just because it's there. So research the judges. Call an attorney you trust in the county where that judge serves. Because one very important thing is outside of these kind of higher profile cases, these judges later become pro tem judges, which means they decide motions in counties like Multnomah County, Clackamas County, Washington County, and they're just retired judges. So I'll file a lawsuit in Clackamas County and have my motion decided by a former Multnomah County judge, and so they get more judges in the pro tem judge pool. So you're more likely to get someone who was a judge in Multnomah County, and so, not only when you elect a judge are you defining who you will later be sending into the pro tem judge pool, they're going to be deciding cases and controversies in your county. So look at them. Don't just vote for them because it's a bubble. That's very important and something I didn't know before I was a lawyer. So
Yeah. So I got to run. I got Dr. John Lotz coming up in a few, but I just want to close out real quick and just say thanks for giving us, an hour of your time, and thank you for everything that you've done for us. And, Monday's a big day, and we know you're going to handle it just the way you've handled everything else. So just hold your head high that no matter what happens, you've done your part, and you've done it remarkably, especially for your first trial. And I just can't wait till you dunk on him. I'm just like, I can't wait.
Well, and anyone who's got ideas for closing, I'll be in the comments on this, looking for ideas. If there's any item of evidence that you saw, there's a lot of evidence in this week, and I wrote most of it down. I've got a few pages here of notes.
So one thing about this, okay, let's not air evidence here in this group. Let's figure out a way. You can send me a PM, or you can send Tony a PM, and let's do it offline just because of what happened to me. Like, I want to kind of protect the information, and actually, how about we do it this way? Because I already have a process of getting information to you, right? So why don't they, if they have anything, send it to me, and then I will make sure that it gets to you, just to kind of help this process, just because I don't want any of the stuff, because they're going to be desperate at this point. So
I mean, they most definitely saw the evidence this week too. But I definitely don't want to give them any insights. Closing. Also, just so everybody knows, this is my emotional support magazine, and I brought it with me so that I need to win, right? So
yes, you do. And whoever I can't see who dropped this comment. Whoever put this comment is getting blocked, and I'm never going to talk to again.
Not a chance. Hey, and we'll have to talk about that sometime, because I think it's a funny story we didn't get to tell, and I know it ticked both of us off. Oh, and I'll let you know, Derek, don't think that I wasn't going after their witnesses this week.
Oh, absolutely. I heard about it, and because I remember the video I did Monday night when I was there. I got done, and I was really down, and I did a video, and the topic of my video was turnabout was fair play, because I knew it's only because we got the ball first that they were going to do this, and I was the first one up, and so as down as I've been the past few days of this stuff, I know at the end, the truth is going to come out, right? And you were going to do what you needed to do to do what they did to your witnesses, So it's well, I love the way the judge said, "What's good for the goose is good for the gander." He said it, and I'm just like, I think one of the hardest things for me was on Wednesday. You had a really, really hard time. You guys broke for lunch, and I wasn't there, but I was watching you on the camera, and I was talking to Dad, and just seeing you just kind of like, you stood up and you're just like looking around, and I didn't know if there was anybody in the courtroom, and I really felt for you in that moment, because I wish I was there, So
no, I appreciate that. Well, I went after him. What's good for the goose is most certainly good for the gander, and if they think Mr. LeBlanc is anywhere near as biased as any of their witnesses, they are sorely incorrect, and I think I made that clear this week. And so that was that was for you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. At the end of the day, I just hope the judge reads my blog.
Yeah. Oh,
because
true.
it
That did
because it
make
was
its way
it was a
onto
good blog. It
yeah,
was a
that
good
made its
blog
way
post.
onto the record. So that's good stuff. Well, thank you everybody, and love y'all, and thank you. It's almost done, and then I look forward to celebrating with when we get a ruling. I will post so on my Facebook page, ruling whatever way we get it. I'm gonna do a text post first, and then I'm gonna go through and screenshot the opinion and post it on there. And we'll see whether we're celebrating or not, but I think we'll be celebrating. I'm confident in the record we made.
So we're gonna put positive vibes in the universe. We are going to celebrate. We're not
Yep,
going to accept defeat here because our cause is righteous.
absolutely.
There's so much that's at stake here, and so we're not going to accept defeat. We're gonna be victorious.
Yeah,
So other
definitely.
than that, I'm gonna get off here. I'm gonna get back to my conference. It was great speaking with you. Keep up the good work. Pulling for you on Monday, and just keep us posted on what you need us to do.
All right,
So,
you got it. Thanks everybody.
all right, thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.